Hey there everybody in internet land, Dave Adams here, aka the driver of the number 37 Derpy Drift car. I want to try something new here. We're going to call it rental car reviews. I hope I said that clearly enough. What we're basically going to do is we're going to take rental cars that we receive and, well, we're going to review them. It's not going to be like the traditional reviews where we discuss everything about the car. We're just going to discuss what you're going to care about when you're actually renting the car, how much it costs, where you're getting it from, things like that. We're going to start with this particular model. It's a 2013 Chevrolet Impala 1LTZ. I won't really get into what those letters and numbers mean because frankly GM doesn't know anymore. What it's supposed to mean is that it has all the bells and whistles that we really care about. What it really means is we've got a rental car with a bunch of letters and numbers on it. Let's hop inside and check it out. Okay, so before we get started on this really hot day, you can see I'm sweating a little bit here. Before we get started with this, I want to talk about something. The first thing you're going to notice when you pick up your rental car. We got this one from Enterprise, as you can see. And what I want to know is why they decided to get in a DeLorean and go back to 2005 to get these keys. I mean, it's got the locking systems on it, it's got remote start, it's got all the things you need, but they couldn't have done a better job at making this look like something that's presentable. Chances are these keys are going to go back into your pocket. You're going to want to take this big tag thing off first, or they're going to go in your purse if you're a young lady. Another thing I want to discuss before we even move in is just the overall build quality of everything. Everything here is done rather cheaply. The steering wheel is okay to hold, but you know, it's a steering wheel. There's nothing special about it. It's got all the little features you need: volume up, volume down, call, release, things like that. And little shifter paddles, which we'll get into later when we start driving this thing. But overall, everything is just a little cheap sounding. Everything you push down on it and it gives. It really shouldn't do that. And this bugs me. The center shifter, the gear selector here, something's wrong with that. They should not have done this. Why? I know what they were going for here with this, and I know why they did it, but it's just really bad in the execution. They wanted you to feel like you were driving something a little more special than you really had. So they gave you the fake wood trim and the fake chrome, but all this plastic doesn't fit together very well and it all feels really cheap. The gear shifter should have had the gear designations on it. It doesn't, and that was a bad idea. Let's step outside, one, so I can stop sweating, and two, so I can show you something else that bugs me. You close the door and you're met with this. It's more of that same cheap plastic that they use on the inside of the car. They're actually using it on the outside of the car. That's absurd. You should never do that. Popping the trunk, though, if you can manage to open it, is actually pretty decent. There's enough room in there for a dead body or three. You're never going to be hurting for space. You can probably get two large suitcases in there. I think it's like 18.6 cubic feet of trunk space. And that's not just good for this car. That's good, period. Everything else seems okay, and that's really what you walk away with this car. You would think that GM would put its better foot forward with this car, but everything is just okay. Well, let's go ahead and turn it on so you can see what kind of amenities you get here. You get a trip computer here that's really not that great. It gives you basic information at best. You do get some like tire pressure sensors and things like that, and instant fuel economy, things like that, but really, there's not much to it. This unit is the most basic head unit I've seen in a car made this side of the Cold War. I haven't seen a head unit this simple since, I think the head unit in my 20-year-old RX-7 is more complicated than this. You do get all the basics. You get AM, FM, satellite radio, CD, and an aux drive, or an aux jack. However, you don't get Bluetooth streaming, which is weird because you can combine your phone with the radio. So you can Bluetooth your phone into the radio for hands-free calling, but you don't have the option of actually going in here and setting up for Bluetooth streaming. That's a strange combination of things why they decided to go with that. You do have power jacks down here, and you have a power jack under this little cubby. You got plenty of storage in here. Big, huge glove box for, you know, drugs or whatever people put into rental car glove boxes. I don't ever put anything into any storage because what happens is you put things into your rental car storage and you leave them in your rental car storage and then you don't see them again. So I just wouldn't do that. So let's go ahead and drive this thing and see what it's like to be behind the wheel of this car. One thing I do want to note before we get driving is that I was just back there putting the camera up, and there is no space back there for a human being. You would think that with a car this size that there should be plenty of leg room back there, and I understand that I'm fairly tall at 6'2", but I can't sit behind me, which is bad because I've driven smaller cars where I can sit behind me, and there's just no leg room back there. That's something you're going to want to think about if you're renting this car for a family trip. Let's start this thing up and see what we got. Okay, now driving this thing in a parking lot, the first thing you're going to notice is that the steering is extremely heavy for a car in this market group. This is aimed at the passenger car, full-size car, bordering on luxury. You don't get a lot of luxury, so we're going to hold it back from that. We won't ding it as hard as we would a luxury car, but we are going to ding it because using the steering wheel in this thing is an absolute chore, and it shouldn't be. And while we're sitting in traffic, one thing I do want to point out is that you do have the ability to select your own gears. This has a 6-speed automatic transmission. It's actually kind of dull. You would think with a 6-speed automatic you'd have plenty of gears to choose from, and it would have no problem selecting any gear, and you should be able to just drive in luxury and then drive in a slightly performance setting if you want. That's not the case. It's very hesitant to shift, even when selecting your own gears, and everything to select your gear is on the left side. There's a little plus and a little minus on this side of the steering wheel, which you have to use every single time you want to shift your gear. That's just not how that's supposed to be done. Either put buttons and paddles on either side of the wheel, or don't put them on the wheel at all. Put them down here on the shifter so we can select our gears down here. So here's what I want to do. I want to go down one of my favorite roads for testing handling, and we're going to see how this car does. Pray for me. It's American, it's big, and it's front-wheel drive. One thing it doesn't hurt for is power. This engine generates 300 horsepower and 262 foot-pounds of torque. That's a lot. It also understeers like a beast because this car has so much engine and so much weight that a corner is just a foreign concept to this vehicle. Right now I am pacing a pickup truck and it is outhandling me. Of course it's a Ford, so it would. That engine does sound very good though. Kudos, GM. Kudos. That is a good sounding motor. All right, we're gonna turn it around because I want to do that again. You definitely get the impression that they did not consider handling when they made this car. They said, we're gonna make this car handle enough to get you around the corner, but not enough to get you around a bend. You damn near have to come to a complete stop to safely complete a turn without crossing over the double yellow. And the fact that it slows down so much just ruins all the fun of the corners. I feel like my life is in danger. I don't feel like I'm having a good time. Oh, and you see, I'm not exaggerating the steering. You have to fight this car tooth and nail to get around a corner. Wow, that's bad. That's very, very bad. And those brakes are just absolutely abysmal. I wouldn't wish those brakes on anyone. One more time. And it is very dangerous how slow this thing shifts when you're telling it to shift. But it does sound good. Whoa! It is suicidal, homicidal, how slow this thing shifts. Wow, but that engine does sound fantastic. Listen to this. That thing sounds so good. How can you make an engine sound that good, but then put it on this transmission with these brakes and this handling? GM, you know what, GM? I have a new task for you. Here's what you need to do, GM. You need to no longer make cars. Do away with the Impala, the Cruise, everything in the Buick line, everything in your Chevrolet GMC line. Do away with all of those cars and just stick to making engines. And the T56 transmission. That's a very good transmission. That's one of my favorite transmissions in any car. And I've driven a lot of cars. So now comes the important question with any rental car. Would I rent it again? And should you rent it at all? Well, cash is king and money talks. So let's pull it over and price it out. As I've mentioned before, we got this car from Enterprise. What we do is we average out the prices based on 4 different locations. We have New York's JFK, LA's LAX, as you know, as it were. We use Dallas Fort Worth, and then right back here in Atlanta at our airport down at downtown Atlanta. So what we do is we take all those prices, we add them up, and then we average them out. Gives you about 45 bucks a day for this car at a weekend rate. It's about 20 bucks here in Atlanta and about 60 bucks in LA and New York. So that's actually not that bad of a deal for a car that will get 30 miles to the gallon. At least you and your immediate passenger will be able to ride in comfort, and you'll be able to put your golf clubs and your luggage in the back. That's not a bad deal. Would I rent it again? Probably not. Should you? I don't know. That depends. If you're all about the motor, then yes, absolutely rent this car. You will smile every single time you put your foot down. That transmission is such a letdown. Leave it in drive. Don't select your own gears. But everything else is very, very good about this car. You'll enjoy every single thing about it if all you care about is the motor. If you're looking for build quality, interior fit and finish, exterior fit and finish, and material use, pass this one up. Get yourself a Mazda or Toyota. You'll be much happier. Once again, I'm David Adams, aka the driver of the number 37 Derpy Drift car with Rental Car Reviews. We'll see you guys next time. This many. Oh, we're gonna get in your shit. Right there. Right there. It's nice. It's nice. It's nice. It's nice. I'm gonna flex this engine some. Oh, I'm gonna get a ticket. Wow, this car is fast. Powerful car. That's a very powerful car. Good motoring. Very good motor. Too bad the rest of the car is just such a letdown. That is unreal. That is unreal for a car of this size. That's absolutely phenomenal.